Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Gaur to Prabhupada. Did you want to read the prayers?
Yes. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swakarantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Nashtaprayeshu abhatreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki.
Okay, so I guess I'll read. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 19, Verse 22, the creation of the fourth order. Viraschasvam apadaya Pitriyagnam atavrajat Tad avadyam hare rupam Jaghur jana durbala. Translation. Then the great hero Vijitasva, Vijitasva, the son of King Prithu, again took the horse and returned to his father's sacrificial arena. Since that time, certain men with a poor fund of knowledge have adopted the dress of a false sannyasi. It was King Indra who introduced this. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Since time immemorial, the sannyas order has carried the Tridanda. Later, Sankaracharya introduced Ekadanda sannyas. A Tridandi sannyasi is a Vaishnav sannyasi, and an Ekadandi sannyasi is a Mayavadi sannyasi. There are many other types of sannyasis who are not approved by Vedic rituals. A type of pseudo sannyas was introduced by Indra when he tried to hide himself from the attack of Vijitasva, the great son of King Prithu. Now there are many different types of sannyasis. Some of them go naked, and some of them carry a skull and trident, generally known as kapalika. All of them were introduced under some meaningless circumstances, and those who have a poor fund of knowledge accept these false sannyasis and their pretenses, although they are not bona fide guides to spiritual advancement. At the present moment, some missionary institutions, without referring to the Vedic rituals, have introduced some sannyasis who engaged in sinful activities. The sinful activities forbidden by the Shastras are illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. These so-called sannyasis indulge in all these activities. They eat meat and flesh, fish, eggs, and just about everything. They sometimes drink with the excuse that without alcohol, fish, and meat, it is impossible to remain in the cold countries near the Arctic zone. These sannyasis introduce all these sinful activities in the name of serving the poor, and consequently, poor animals are cut to pieces and go into the bellies of these sannyasis. As described in the following verses, such sannyasis are pakandis. Vedic literature states that a person who puts Lord Narayan on the level with Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma immediately becomes a pakandi. As stated in the Puranas, Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Daivatai Samatve Naiva Viksheta Sa Pashandi Bhavedruvam. In Kali Yuga, the Pakandis are very prominent. However, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has tried to kill all these Pakandis by introducing his Sankirtan movement. Those who take advantage of the Sankirtan movement of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness will be able to save themselves from the influence of these Pakandis. Okay, so here we have a very detailed description of how Lord Indra has introduced these false sannyasis into society. Especially mentioned here are the Ekadandi sannyas, the sannyasis with one stick. And, you know, they have all sorts of activities that they do, eating meat, intoxication, and going naked, etc., carrying a skull and trident. So these, you know, sannyasis, they've been misleading people for many years. We've seen them, very famous personalities over the years have come in the dresses of a sannyasi and fooled the people. One in particular, a very famous one, he used to produce gold and dust, ashes, etc. Was later to be accused of so many things, sinful activities. So we can see that, you know, a true sannyasi is one who is very simple in his life. He doesn't have money. He doesn't have any family. He doesn't have anything to depend on materially speaking. He just travels and he preaches. And by his preaching, the Lord provides everything for him. I know one sannyasi who used to travel all around the world, had this tiny little case and just one change of clothing and a toothbrush and toothpaste and just a few things like this. One change of clothing, that's all he had. And a tiny little case, and he used to travel around the world like that. And was perfectly happy. Just used to wash his cloth every day, you know, no problem. So Prabhupada introduced the sannyas order into ISKCON to help spread the preaching, to spread the holy names, to spread prasadam distribution, and to spread the knowledge of the Lord. And this was the idea, that he empowered certain devotees to do that, and they still are doing that, most of them. They're inspiring devotees to become stronger in spiritual life. I know one sannyasi who travels the world constantly, just chanting the holy names every single day. And just goes on the street every single day and chants the holy names. Even if he's not on the street, in the middle of nowhere, they still chant the holy names together, himself and his brahmacharis. They all travel together. They just chant every single day, and they attract people to the chanting of the holy names. So this is the real sannyasi, the one who promotes the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and promotes and spreads the glories of the holy names and the glories of the Lord, and preaches, distributes books, etc., and inspires devotees also. So when you think about that, and then you think about what's being said in this purport, it's just completely opposite. You know, They're eating meat, fish, and eggs, and meat. You know, like the cow, also, and they drink as well. You know, just making up excuses for their sinful activities. And he said here, in the name of serving the poor, in the name of serving the poor, but at the same time they're taking part in the process of killing animals and eating them. So that's even within their own logic, it doesn't add up. You know, they're serving the poor humans, but at the same time they're killing animals, or they're taking part in the process of killing animals by eating meat. And so these are called pakandis, and bad association. So Prabhupada was actually very strong about this. He said that his disciples had to avoid going outside of the temple to hear about the Lord, the philosophy, and just read his books, not read any other books, just his books. Because after some time, some of his disciples were going outside, hearing Rasa Leela, etc., and also reading other books, which is a very dangerous thing to do. Because when you read books from other acharyas, even if they're bona fide acharyas, there may be some contradiction between what you read and what Srila Prabhupada has written. So it can cause a lot of confusion and sometimes offences also. There was one disciple that actually went to Srila Prabhupada and asked him for his blessings to take initiation from another spiritual master, you know, and so that's extremely offensive. That's you know, Guru Ninda. It's an offense against the spiritual master. So we have to avoid such personalities, and the Lord has descended in this Kali Yuga. Luckily for us, he's descended, and he's given us the chanting of the holy names, and by empowering Srila Prabhupada to spread this movement around the world, we've got the Sankirtan movement. And in this way, these Pakandis are because they're prominent right now, but they can be killed by the Sankirtan movement, by strong preaching, and by spreading the holy names. These personalities, these Pakandis, their popularity will decrease, and they'll be defeated by real philosophy and real spiritual life. So as Prabhupada is saying here, as long as we're spreading this movement and somehow convincing people to become Krishna conscious, we're saving them from the influence of these people. We'll be able to do that. We'll be empowered to do that. If someone has got some philosophical ideas, or they're getting influenced by certain personalities who are leading them down a very dark path, we can actually save them, because they become attracted to the chanting of the holy names, and by the chanting, then they can understand the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, and they can understand the activities of the Lord, and they can actually become cleansed of this deviant philosophy and all these ideas that get introduced. And this is like the Lord has descended in the form of the holy name to cut through all this darkness in Kali Yuga, and to actually give people knowledge on what to do, how to act properly, and to follow strictly spiritual life. Okay, I'm not sure if you're able to talk, Leela Mataji. But if someone wants to read the next one, otherwise I can read it.
Like I could read, but like there is a little bit of like Yeah, there could be a little bit of other sounds. Okay,
Okay.
text 23.
Yeah. Okay.
Yani rupani chakrahe indro hayachi hirshaya tani papasya khandani lingam khandita ihochyate. Translation: whatever different forms Indra assumed as a mendicant because of his desire to seize the horse were symbols of atheistic philosophy. Purport: according to Vedic culture, sannyasi is one of the essential items in the program of the Varnashrama institution. One should accept sannyas according to the parampara system of the acharyas. At the present moment, however, so many sannyasis or mendicants have no understanding of God consciousness. Such a sannyasi was introduced by Indra. Sannyas was introduced by Indra because of his jealousy of Maharaj Prithu. And what he introduced is again appearing in the age of Kali. Practically none of the sannyasis in this age are bona fide. No one can introduce any new system into the Vedic way of life. If one does so out of malice, he is to be known as a Pashandi or atheist. In the Vaishnava Tantra, it is said, Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahmarudradi Daivataha Samatve Ina Viksheta Sapashandi Bhaved Dhruvam. Although it is forbidden, there are many Pashandis who coin terms like Daridra Narayan and Swami Narayan, although not even such demigods as Brahma and Shiva can be equal to Narayan. So this is continuation of the previous verse, and Prabhu explained very nicely that sannyasis should be in a bona fide, coming from a bona fide system. And the bona fide system actually means in Vaishnava Sampradaya. Otherwise, there are many, many other deviations which have come over a period of time. Even in Vedic, from a Vedic standpoint, like, there are Mayavadi sannyasis. Actually, Mayavadis are not, in one sense, they're not, they do not have a complete understanding of the Vedas. Like Mayavadis are not, like there are Paramatmavadis, there are Brahmavadis. So, but even among Brahmavadis, like there is a deviation, and they are the Mayavadis. So Brahmavadis accept that there is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but still their aspiration is to, they're attracted to the Brahman feature of the Lord. But Mayavadis are completely different, who argue that, who are almost atheistic. They understand like that the ultimate is Brahma Jyoti, and they want to, they are basically, they have an atheistic propaganda behind their Brahman philosophy. So Mayavadis are not bona fide at all. So Prabhupada used to speak a lot about these different philosophies and different types of people who present themselves as representatives of religion and philosophies, because he wanted to give his devotees clear discrimination, a clear difference between Vaishnava philosophy and other philosophies. The tendency is that, like, when one gets deviated into other philosophies, like Mayavada philosophy or some other kind of philosophy, then one loses the goal of life. It's very easy to get lost, especially for people who are new. And Prabhupada wanted to caution his devotees against all such sampradayas. And even as Prabhu spoke in the previous, it still happens today. We cannot think that, oh, it used to happen only when Prabhupada was there and therefore he wanted to caution us. No, it still happens today. I went to Vrindavan, and one of the devotees there, she was a disciple of maybe I won't mention the name, but a devotee who is preaching in ISKCON. And she said, like many of her guru's disciples, they come to Vrindavan and they get attracted to some Babaji in Vrindavan, and they leave their bona fide spiritual master who is coming in disciplic succession to accept some other Babaji as their spiritual master. Actually, that is considered improper according to Vaishnava etiquette. If a devotee is in good standing and he has accepted the shelter of a spiritual master who is in good standing within Vaishnava system, then one should not go and accept another spiritual master and say he's my spiritual master. That is actually considered offense against the spiritual master. If a spiritual master falls down, even then a devotee can continue in his spiritual life by taking siksha from some other person. But if a person is strong enough, they don't have to take initiation from another spiritual master. They can even continue if the guru has fallen by accepting siksha from somebody else. Of course, it's a huge topic, and there is like differences of opinion across ISKCON. But the whole idea is that it's very serious when one takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, and one has to follow this very, very seriously. And Prabhupada is again cautioning us in this purport by saying that sannyasa is one of the essential Vedic Varnashrama ashrams, and it's a very high order to accept. But here, Indra, he became jealous of Prithu Maharaj, and he accepted a false dress. And he's cautioning us again and again, like, please be aware of these kind of personalities, because they coin different terms and they present themselves as religious, as highly learned, but they do not know the basic thing that even Lord Brahma and Shiva can never be compared to Narayan. This is actually the second offense against the holy name of the Lord, that even great demigods like Brahma and Shiva cannot be on the same platform as Vishnu. And they do not have these deep Vaishnava understandings, and they propagate these different ideas of what is actually important. And they can deviate people. They're themselves like deviated from the essence of Vedic understandings, and they deviate other people by presenting themselves as attractive, wearing a sannyas dress. So Prabhupada, through all of his purports, very, very distinctly and clearly, he's making us aware of these different ideas and philosophies that one can come across even today. And he wants to caution us against such understandings. So I'll pause here. Thank you. If there are any comments, like, please add anything that needs to be added.
Yeah, I was going to say that the first part of the purport's quite important, that he says, Prabhupada is saying that according to Vedic civilization, sannyasa is one of the essential items in the program of the Varnashram institution. We were talking about this previously, about Varnashram Dharma, Devi Varnashram Dharma, and how even though we are spirit souls and ultimately we're not these bodies. Therefore, we're not sannyas or brahmana or kshatriya or any of these varnas or ashrams. We still have to be engaged according to our nature whilst we're getting that purification process. And that's why as devotees we chant the holy names and we hear the philosophy and we perform service to get that purification. But in the meantime, we need to be engaged like this in our and be identified in a particular varna or ashram. Although when we become very advanced, we can perform any service, any duty, any varna or ashram. In particular, we can, a very advanced devotee can sweep the floor, or he can do very high Brahminical service. So I thought that was quite interesting. And also that the sannyasi can only be accepted according to the parampara system of the acharyas. So that's where things have gone wrong, that they haven't actually surrendered to the Lord through the bona fide parampara system. And therefore they're just doing whatever they want, basically. And all this is due to the jealousy of Indra for Maharaj Prithu. And when you think about that, the influence of Indra is so great that he just becomes jealous of Maharaj Prithu, and then that whole system of bogus sannyasis is introduced, pseudo sannyasis is introduced until the end of Kali Yuga. So that shows you the power of Lord Indra, and of course all that's meant to happen because it's Kali Yuga, and Kali Yuga becomes gradually degraded. So that's all meant to happen. But it's just very interesting how it does happen, how the Lord arranges everything. And, a personality like Indra becomes jealous, and then from that something comes, and from that something comes. Yeah, so I think that's all I got to say.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for adding. Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we can finish up here. And would you like me to do the outro?
Sorry, what did you say?
Do you want to finish here, or do you want to continue to the next verse? What would you like to do?
Prabhu, it's up to you. If other devotees want to continue, like I can go, and other devotees can continue.
Okay, well, it means that you miss out on what we talked about, so maybe we should just finish for now. It looks like there's only Rohini Mataji, and maybe she's doing the flower garlands. So.
Okay, Prabhu. Yeah, so then resume again tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.